Hello, my name is Ricky Gonzalez, and I will be presenting on the three policies that will help create my proposed Organized Retail Crime Act of 2021. Currently, organized retail crime has been responsible for the reported losses of 719,548 per 1 billion in sales over the 2020 year. This is a rise of 11%, and this is from the Organized Retail Crime Survey of 2020 by the National Retail Federation. Currently, Proposition 47 in the state of California was passed in November 2014, which implemented three broad changes in felony sentencing laws. First, it reclassified certain theft and drug offenses from felonies to misdemeanors. Secondly, it allowed defendants currently serving sentences resentencing and allowing them to be able to reclassify them as misdemeanors. And lastly, it authorized defendants who have completed their sentence to apply for the reclassification of those convictions to misdemeanors. And it also aided in defining organized retail shoplifting as in the state by entering a commercial establishment with the intent to commit larceny and the value of property exceeding $950. Some of the anticipated outcomes were the reduction of the number of offenders eligible for state prison sentences, the state savings from 100 to 200 million per year, and redirecting funds from the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Fund. And the redistribution of those funds would have been 65% for mental health services and substance abuse treatment, 25% for reduced school truancy, and 10% for trauma recovery services. The budget allocations would have been mostly served within attorney, paralegal, and clerical assistant and call center requests, specifically building on programming aimed at better case management practices. Alternately, in North Carolina, the Justice Reinvestment Act that came from House Bill 642 is a much stricter policy that was implemented in 2009 in order to strengthen probation supervision, hold offenders accountable in more meaningful ways, and reduce the risk of reoffending by authorizing probation officers to employ swift and certain responses to violations, accelerating the incarceration of people convicted of multiple occasions, and provide incentives for people who are in low-level felony drug possessions. This is much more stricter due to the fact that the judge's interpretation of what was broken would have given a lot of different opportunities for individuals not to qualify for this program and just simply serve prison sentences. Some of the anticipated outcomes were the state increasing in public safety, the state saving 45 million in corrections costs between 2012 to 2017, and the projected growth of the prison to state population being avoided. The budget allocations shown here show an 8% decrease in prison population by closing 10 prisons, and the averted an estimated 550 million in costs, which was able to fund 179 probation officer positions, increase the number of people released from prison who receive post-release supervision, and a decrease in crime by 11%. Finally, the more restorative and equity-minded reform was in the state of Illinois by the Criminal Justice and Sentencing Reformation Act, which allowed the increase in rehabilitative services and treatment, raise the threshold dollar amounts for retail theft for $2,000, and reduce the minimum years of sentencing, specifically by increasing rehabilitative services and treatment capacity in high-need communities and implementing trainings specifically on implicit and racial bias and ethnic bias for individuals working in criminal justice systems. Some of the anticipated outcomes of this policy were the reduction of prisons populations, increase in probation alternative programming, increase in drug prevention and rehabilitation, and increases in workforce development programming. The state budget allocations, as you can tell, are specifically aimed at high functioning criminal justice reform programs, such as the Department of Corrections, the Department of Juvenile Justice, and the enforcement and training of standards and procedures for the boards. Finally, the evaluation criteria that I was utilizing for each one of them is shown here. For Proposition 47, effectiveness was the evaluation criteria due to it giving way for further legislative reform such as AB 331, and it created a justification for accession social service programming. The application would have been to reconfigure the social service programming databases and allowed the creation of various organized retail crime state programming. In the second one, we did an efficiency criteria because it allowed for the judge interpretation of qualifying cases and individuals. It allowed for efficient spending and patterns on existing problems, by also the application of it being the probation overhaul that allows for effective case management and redistribution of funds for various other state and license programs. And then finally, the Commission on Criminal Justice and Screening Reform is an equity evaluation criteria due to the holistic social programming that it created and backed by various civil rights initiatives. This was in creation for various rehabilitation and social work programs, as well as the creation of a statewide database looking at social impact and disproportionately impacted groups affected through the incarceration reform. Thank you so much, and I would appreciate any and all feedback. Have a good night.